Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Victoria and I talk all things Leafs hockey from Scotland. Today's video is my first weekly analysis of the Leafs. This week is week 1 of the regular season for the Toronto Maple Leafs, so we have 3 games to break down. I'm going to do these on a weekly basis. I wanted to be able to do some sort of game analysis, but one, I do not have the time to break down every single game because this is not my job, unfortunately. And 2, you guys have Steve Dangle for that, and I am no Steve Dangle and will never be, but you have him for the individual game breakdowns. But I wanted to do maybe like a weekly analysis type thing. So before we get started, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I have had a lot of new subscribers lately, and so welcome. Thank you so much for being here, I'm very grateful. Also make sure to like this video for more content like this, and let's dive in. So the season opener was in Montreal, Leafs versus Canadiens, such an iconic first matchup of the year. Wednesday 9th of October, and the Leafs lose 1-0. Is that not the most anticlimactic scoreline you could ever imagine for a season opener? However, I don't feel like the score really represents what actually happened in that game. The Leafs had an impressive 48 shots on goal, but Montreal's goalie, Samuel Montembeault, had a hell of a performance. He really did earn himself a shutout in that game, and this entire game was really a battle of the goaltenders. Leafs fans had some disappointing news in the form of Joseph Woll before the game. It was announced that he is out due to injury. He has lower body stiffness, and so he would not be playing either in the first game or in any of the immediate games thereafter. Of course, Joseph Woll is meant to be the Leafs starter for this season, and so the season really started off with immediate concern from Leafs fans about the goaltending, which was meant to be one of the most improved areas. However, I will contend that after seeing 3 performances from both Dennis Hildeby and Anthony Stollarz this week, the goaltending is definitely improved, and the Leafs have a level of depth that I don't think they've had in many years, and the fact that they've been able to find success this week despite Joseph Woll being out is really more of a credit to the off-season changes that they made. And so for this first game of the season, Anthony Stollarz was in net. He also had a fantastic performance. He saved 26 out of 27 shots, and the one goal that he did let in was the only goal of the entire game, of course, and that came from Cole Caulfield, and it was on the power play. Talking of power plays, this is going to be a trend in this video, but the Leafs have just got no luck and are really struggling with their power play. They went 0 for 4 on the power play in this game alone, and this game was the first time that the Leafs have been shut out since November 2021 against the Pittsburgh Penguins. As I said though, I don't feel like being shut out, even though it was against one of the weaker teams in the league, really did define the Leafs' performance in this. They had a lot of strong defensive plays. Defensively, I thought they were really sound. Offensively, not so much. They had some decent things going on, but nothing overly impressive, and their strategy seemed quite simplified for offensive plays in this game. In particular, the top line of Matthew Knies, Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews was very disappointing for me in this game. Knies wasn't really driving the plays, and of course the power play blame has to be slightly placed on Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, of course. Marner made some great defensive plays in this game, and Austin Matthews did have some good scoring chances, especially in the second period, and he did hit the crossbar at one point, but at the end of the day, they're there to score, and they just were not doing that this game, although they did sort of get goalied, in my opinion. This first game was just really a battle of the goaltenders. I feel like Stollarz and Montembeault, I feel like this game really was down to them, to be honest, and Stollarz only gave up 1 goal. It was on the power play for Montreal, and so I don't think there's much more to say other than it was a great game for goaltending. And even though a bit disappointing of course for a season opener, it was still a really enjoyable game to watch, and I did still really like the Leafs' performance, especially in terms of their goaltending and defensively. But of course the anxiety does set in. It's the Leafs, of course, everything is overanalyzed, and of course you're going to be nervous that you got shut out in the first game of the season, especially against Montreal. But going into game 2, I was convinced that they were going to do something this game. I was obviously concerned because New Jersey was their hardest matchup this week. I think the Devils can can really be a good team this year, so I was a little bit nervous about it. But this was really the Leafs' most impressive win this week, of course. As I say, the Devils were by far the most challenging team that they were matched up against this week. It was the second game of the season, Thursday the 10th of October, and a back-to-back, of course, for their second game. And of course, both of these on the road as well, so it wasn't really setting the Leafs up particularly well. You're coming off a loss, there's no momentum, you're still away, and it's on a back-to-back. It wasn't really the best cards they were dealt, but I must say, they really shone in this game. Dennis Hildeby made his NHL debut in net for the Leafs, and he was fantastic. That man, he is a tall man. He's, I think, 6'6". He basically, you know, fills up the entire net. He was absolutely fantastic in this game. The Leafs goaltending, I can't praise it enough this week. It really was the standout element of this team. And for a team who have had previous goaltending issues, it was really great to see. The Leafs didn't start off too hot against the Devils. They had turnovers getting them in their own end, but the bottom six for the Leafs really turned up for this game. Just 7 shots on goal into the game. There were goals from Max Pacioretty, Bobby McMann and Steven Lorentz. They were all on the board. As I say, 7 shots on goal, 3 goals in, all from the bottom 6. Chef's kiss. New Jersey did get a goal back at the end of the first period, but I was feeling good about the Leafs, and this continued into the second as John Tavares found the back of the net with a wrist shot, and despite a late second period goal from the Devils, the third saw no goals happen at all. The score stayed the same, and so the Leafs clinched their first win of the season. 4-2 over the Devils. I love it. I also love the fact that Max Pacioretty was the Leafs' first goal of this season. He wears number 67. He used to play for the Habs. It's all very symbolic and I just love it. Max Pacioretty is probably my favourite sort of addition from the off-season. Obviously he was on a PTO during the pre-season and he definitely more than earned his place, and clearly his motivation and his ability to remain healthy has continued into the regular season because he has been performing well. Steven Lorentz has also been a standout addition for me so far this year. I've really liked what we've seen from him and I think he's a really exciting player, not just because of the fact that he must be one of the most passionate players on that team. It's his childhood team. He dressed up as a maple leaf for Halloween when he was a kid. This guy is living the absolute dream and you can really tell. He looks so happy and his performance really reflects that. And with that, we're on to game 3, the final game of the first week, and it was the home opener against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Saturday 12th October, and the Leafs won this one 4-2 as well. Just before I break down my thoughts on the actual game, I really want to touch on the atmosphere at that game. Now, of course, I was watching it on a broadcast, and so I would really love to know, if you were at the Leafs home opener, if you physically went to Scotiabank Arena and you were there, please tell me what the atmosphere was like, because from what we could see as viewers on TV, the atmosphere was terrible. The player introductions, it looked like barely anyone was making any noise. People weren't even like standing up for the team coming out for the player introductions. It seemed really flat, and unless they were like scoring, it didn't really seem like there was any excitement there, which to me is odd for a home opener because there's excitement in the home opener element itself. And someone did reply to me on Twitter saying that they were up in the 300s and that there was definitely noise coming from their end, and while I don't doubt that, because we all know that the Leafs fans predominantly are in the upper bowls, in the lower bowl anyway from what I saw it looked pretty flat, and that's really sad to see. So yeah, I need to know, was the atmosphere as flat as it looked on TV? Because it really did seem that way from looking through a broadcast. So let me know, if you were at the game, what was the atmosphere like? What was the whole like lower bowl corporate people issue like? I'd love to know. Anyway, first hockey night in Canada of the 2024-25 season, and the Leafs were off to a pretty poor start. Once again, I must say. They were very slow, very sluggish. John Tavares was out due to illness, and watching the first, I did wonder whether there was an illness actually more widespread in the team that they were playing through, but honestly, the game really picked up. As soon as the second period started, I was like, okay, yeah, I feel good about this team again. In the first, there were good defensive plays from Matthews and from Nylander, but overall it was quite a lacklustre performance, especially for a home opener. Chris Letang opened the scoring on the power play. I was a bit concerned at this point that they were going to lose both the season opener and the home opener. But the second period was much better. They looked far more lively. We had 2 Leafs goals, one from Nylander and one from Nyes. Then in the third period, we saw our first Mitch Marner goal of the season 2 with an unassisted snapshot just a couple minutes into the period. Raquel did get the Penguins back in the game slightly with a wrist shot that just got past Stollarts, but Nylander sealed the deal with an empty netter, giving the Leafs a 4-2 win. Also giving Anthony Stollarts his first win for the Leafs and our first Nylander and Marner goals of the season. It was a successful Saturday night in Toronto. I love to see it. Of course, that leaves now only Matthews left to score, which is not as much of a concern as what I think some people think it is, but it's still obviously a little bit concerning to see because he is literally paid all that money to score and he hasn't so far. But I think there's plenty of time. I think he'll find his rhythm, and I'm not really concerned about the fact Matthews hasn't scored yet. But I hope to see it in the next week. If I don't see it this upcoming week, then I'm concerned. Once again, Leafs power play really struggled here. They went 0 for 3 on it, and that basically was a summary of their whole first week. So my overall thoughts for this first week of the regular season for the Leafs is that the goaltending is fantastic. 2 of the opponents, of course, were far easier, and so there was less for the goalies to do, but I still thought they looked really solid, and especially given that Joseph Woll was unexpectedly unavailable, I think the goaltending was absolutely 10 out of 10 this week. It's very early, but defensively, which is where the Leafs were definitely lacking in previous seasons, they look so good. Chris Tanev and Oliver Ekman-Larsson have both been standout for me so far. As I say, it's really early, and 3 games is a very small sample size, but from this week, especially Oliver Ekman-Larsson, I think has been one of the best additions to the Leafs this year. Defensively, they just look great. So far this season, the Leafs are yet to give up a 5-on-5 goal when either of their top pairs are on the ice, so that's Chris Tanev and Morgan Rielly and Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Jake McCabe. Their special teams are definitely an issue. Their penalty kill has been mostly good, but they have given up a power play goal to the opposite team at least once in each of those 3 games, so it definitely has still some work to do. But really, their power play is the problem. They are 0 for 9 in the power play this week. It was really weak, and I feel like I'm repeating myself because I feel like in my game analysis videos in the postseason, all I talked about was the fact that their power play was not good enough, and yet here we are again in the regular season, and we're still having the same problems. However, after Saturday's victory, the players were asked about this power play struggle, and Nylander replied that we've just got to simplify. Like I said the other day, it's early in the season and we'll get it clicking. I'm not worried about that. So, I mean, I'm a little worried about that, but hopefully that will change this upcoming week. So that is my analysis of the Leafs' first regular season week. Leave a comment down below, how do you think they did this week? Once again, make sure to subscribe to my channel and also like this video. And I'll be back again soon with more Leafs chats from across the pond. Bye guys.
Thought that we had something special. I thought I handled this so well. I know we had the right intentions, but somehow it came to an end.